Welcome to Education Today. I'm your host, Chuck Garrett. Today I'm happy to have with me as my guest, Robert Garrett, Educational Technology Specialist with the Albany School District. Welcome, Robert. It's glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate you joining us. Well, the school year's over, and I know all you guys have pretty much taken off to the beach, and everybody's just getting a tan. Because, you know, like everybody says, for the 3 months of summer, you guys don't do a thing. So have you enjoyed your time off?
Well, we really haven't had any time off. So a lot of people are used to the old days when school was 9 months of the year.
Yes, sir.
But 180-day school year is now 10 months of the year. So
Yep.
June and July are the months that teachers get off. But the administrators are hard at work. If you show up to any building right now, you'll see floors getting waxed. You'll see plans for the new school year happening. So that is a misconception that many have, but we're working hard.
I've driven by there a few times, and I see football players and band and teachers. I know you're doing some educational training.
Tons of training.
So in a way, for a lot of teachers and staff, that 10-month job or 9-month job's turned into a 12-month job.
Right. And if you go right now, you're in the district, you'll see construction happening outside the building.
Yep.
For the bond that was passed.
Right.
So there's a lot of stuff that we do from an infrastructure standpoint in the network that we can't do when students are in the building because we can't take the network down during the school year.
Okay.
So yeah, there's a lot of work happening right now.
Well, I know you're busy, and I appreciate you taking the time to join me today.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about your educational background?
Yeah, so I've got an undergraduate and a graduate degree from the University of Mississippi, and math education is my undergrad, and then leadership is my graduate degree. And then as an educator, I started my first year teaching at West Union. I did 1 year at West Union, and then came to New Albany Middle School for 2 years, and then was at the high school for an additional 7 as a teacher, and then 2 more as an assistant principal.
When you got to know John Whedon a little bit when you got hired over at West Union.
Yeah, I really like John.
Yeah, Mr. Whedon spoke very highly of you.
Well, that's good to hear.
He said every time I see him, he always speaks. He said he said I really appreciate that about him.
Well, he was a good leader, easy person to work for if you did what you were supposed to do, so I always appreciated him.
Well, you, as a teacher, kind of describe, you taught a lot of math. What grade levels, subjects, and that kind of thing?
Yeah, so at West Union, there were only 2 math teachers on the whole campus, so we had 7th to 12th grade. Then when I went to the middle school, I did 7th and 8th grade.
In New Albany?
In New Albany.
Okay.
And then at the high school in New Albany High School, I had everything from calculus and trig and pre-cal all the way down to Algebra 1. So I really kind of taught everything you can teach from 7th to 12th grade as far as math's concerned.
I know you had a lot of good success with test scores, for instance, high level of proficiency and above and that kind of thing. It's my memory that there were a time or two when you were in the top 5 of math scores in the state. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. At the middle and high school.
Okay.
My first year teaching at West Union, I didn't have quite that performance. You're kind of figuring things out.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had some real successful years, good kids to teach, but I never minded state testing. I always kind of liked it, the competitive nature of it.
I can see that. I can imagine that in you.
Right. So yeah, we had some good success throughout the years, especially at the high school.
Okay.
My first year teaching at the high school, we had some dramatic improvements in the algebra test scores that were kind of the catalyst to bring the high school. I was one of a small piece of people who got the high school DNA for the first time. So yeah, it's some good success.
I remember a lot of that well. What are some of your current responsibilities?
So in the school district, I mainly maintain the infrastructure of the internet, and then do any type of technology purchasing and kind of vision around what technology we purchase. That way we don't have a hodgepodge of Chromebooks, Windows devices, and Macs. And then also any training that happens in the district technology-wise. I try to be very involved, whether that's going in the classroom and working with a teacher individually, or it's doing PLC time with a group of kindergarten teachers or a group of history teachers at the middle school. So it encompasses not just keeping your computer working, but also training, because the thing is if we give you a computer and we don't show you how it can impact your classroom, then it ends up sitting in a box, or it becomes something that that isn't used as effectively as it could.
Now, you said a hodgepodge of technology, and in this day of bidding and taking the lowest bid and all this kind of thing, it's easy to end up with a wide variety of different kinds of computers and MacBooks or notebooks and that kind of thing. How do you work that so that you can get consistency?
Well, I think when you look at a school system that's got one technology platform, it makes everything easier, right? So if you're a teacher in a classroom and I'm a teacher in a classroom and you have a Chromebook and I have a MacBook, if I have a question, I can't go ask you anything.
Right.
Because you're using something totally different from what I'm using. If we provide training, now we have to provide two separate trainings versus one. So
less cost effective.
Right, it's way less cost effective. So when you have one platform, now everybody's speaking the same language. And so we can provide training that applies to everybody, whether a kindergarten teacher or a high school algebra teacher.
Okay.
So the advantages are tremendous. Also, when we start working on the devices, the technology staff doesn't have to learn how to fix 7 cars, for example. They're fixing 1 car. And so they can get more proficient at doing it quicker.
Okay, a lot more efficient. All right, sounds very good. What's the technological vision for the Albany School District?
Yeah, and I would say that most schools don't really have a technology vision. So we've developed in the last 2 years a vision for instruction of the students. So we basically sat down and we said, what do we want the students to know by the time they graduate, and how are we going to get them there? And in the past, kids took maybe ICT, or they took a keyboarding class, and really we didn't know why we were giving the class. It was just mandated by the state to give it. And so what we did is we said, okay, we want kids as seniors to graduate being able to produce an iOS app, an app for your cell phone or for your computer.
Okay.
And we said, okay, if they've got to be able to do that, what do we have to do in the previous grades to prepare them to be capable of that? And so we started with kindergarten through 2nd grade, and we said we want kids to be able to type 20 words a minute by the time they finish 2nd grade. And a lot of people think, well, that's impossible.
20 words a minute by the time you finish 2nd grade.
2nd grade.
That does seem, that certainly wouldn't have happened 10 years ago.
Right. Well, and you think about, how do you teach a kindergarten to type when they can't even read?
Right.
Right. So there are some interesting overlap that happens when you start teaching a kid to type. Well, now you can introduce letters in a different way than you might have before. Or in 1st grade, when you're preparing for a spelling test, well, let's type the words. And so you're kind of, it's not like you're saying, okay, everybody stop, we're going to learn computers right now.
Right.
You just kind of embed it into the regular standards and curriculum.
Use it for a tool to learn what they're already trying to learn.
That's right. And we called a lot of schools outside the state, schools in New Mexico, California, Texas, North Carolina, South Carolina, and they've been doing this for a while.
All right.
And so, a lot of times we hold kids back because the adults think it's not possible. And so when we first just determined it's even possible, now the kids had the opportunity to do it. So then 3rd through 5th grade, we said, all right, well, we want them to know PowerPoint, Excel, and Word.
All right.
And Google's versions of that, Google Docs, Google Sheets, and Google Slides, and then Apple's version, which is Pages, Keynote, and Numbers.
So they're learning all that in grades 3 through 5?
All 9 of those programs, which are all overlap. If you know PowerPoint...
I need to go back to 4th grade so I can learn that.
That's right.
I mean, really.
Well,
I bet a lot of people at home are thinking, I want to go get in the 4th grade so I can learn it too.
Right.
Well, most people, especially my age, aren't proficient in those kinds of things.
Yeah, and I would say that the educational model in the 90s was we had a class where we taught you only that.
Right.
And so the way that we're attacking that is a little different. Is we'll have the students take a presentation they want to give, and we'll hand them the iPad, and the teacher will facilitate them basically teaching themselves how to create a PowerPoint or a Keynote or a slide out of it. And the teachers know the standards they're trying to make sure the students know by the end of the year, but it's not like they sit down and say, okay, today we're going to learn PowerPoint. That really never happens. It happens through, they do their other projects, say in English, and they have to make a presentation.
It's a tool.
It's a tool.
As opposed to something that we're just teaching abstractly and not necessarily using.
Right, so the kids are learning it and really don't even know they're learning it.
Right.
And so that's kind of the way we've attacked it K-5. Now something else we've added that Ms. Gwen Russell is the principal at the elementary school, New Albany Elementary, and she's one of the most innovative, forward-thinking administrators I've ever been around.
I've heard she had a really good year this past year.
Yeah, and one of the things she's implemented is a STEM rotation, science, technology, it's really STEAM, the arts, engineering and math, rotation that the kids go to, but also a kind of a makerspace rotation where they maybe start with a problem, like here's a span, I want to build a bridge, can we build a bridge that's the lightest that will hold, say, 10 pounds? And so the kids have the opportunity through a 3D printer and other options, balsa wood, to build something, construct something, and test it. And so then we've also thrown into that mix some coding. We just had a training where we're teaching kindergarten through 5th grade teachers to teach young K-5 students the foundation of coding. And so that when they walk to the middle school, they can do what we're going to ask them to do in the middle school.
And this is part of the reason that your experience with technology and infrastructure along with instruction puts you in a position where you can help teachers learn how to use the technology. Because they can't teach the kids if they don't know how, and a lot of them don't.
Yeah, and
not immediately anyway.
Well, that's for sure. And so Code.org did a research study that there were over 100,000 computer science teachers that graduated college in computer science, and only 75 of those went and taught in the K-12 school. Because they get paid nothing.
That's right. There you go.
And so if a student can write a website or make an app for their iPhone, and then they can find clients who will pay them to do that, they can work anywhere in the world, sitting in their kitchen on a computer. They don't have to live in New York or Atlanta or Miami, and make between $100,000 and $300,000 a year. And what I would say is in our town, there are people who are doing that now, and you just don't know they exist. And they're sitting in there, that maybe they have a closet that they've turned into a workspace, and they've got 3 monitors, and they're writing websites, right? Somebody who really comes to mind is Lance Moore. He's one of the most talented graphical design people who can also put it onto the web that I've ever seen.
I remember way back when we first began to have a website in New Albany, he was the one that helped build it.
Right.
So
And when social media really became a thing, there was a company in Miami, a guy that knew nothing about technology, went and hired up a bunch of engineers and social media experts, got him a staff of about 20 people. And then he went to Fortune 500 companies and he said, we will handle all your social media and all your website for you. Here's the price. Do you want to contract with us? And the business became so valuable, he ended up selling that for over $1 billion. And I met him in Jackson at a tennis tournament, and he was telling me about how he kind of set the business up. And companies like GE, who they handle their online social media presence and their website for them, so that companies like GE don't have to go hire that whole staff, right?
Right.
And so on a smaller scale, a person in New Albany could do that exact same thing. They go around to businesses, say Van Atkins, and say, we know you'd like to have an online presence. We will do that for this contracted price. And so that's where that $100,000 to $300,000 comes from. But they got to have the skill to begin with. And the arts is real important because I can build a website, but I can't make it look good. Right? So an artistic person who can do that is very valuable because they can also make it look attractive.
Okay.
So now when you go to so that was K-5.
Now we're into the middle school.
Right, so when they go to the middle school, we're really going to have them start coding at a high level. So they're going to start building websites. They're going to start doing JavaScript. They're going to start really interacting with a computer in such a way that they're creating animations, making video games, that type of stuff. Well, they can't do that if they didn't walk in K-5 with that foundation, that coding foundation.
Right.
And because we're doing the website development, the JavaScript, and all that type of coding, how in the world do we have the time to stop and say, let's learn PowerPoint? So that's why we kind of had to kick that down to K-5.
and also have to ask the state for some permission to do some things a little bit different.
That's right, that's right. I'll be honest with you, when we told the state, and really the people at the RCU, Shelley Hollis is who I'm kind of talking about, when we told her what we were doing, she was blown away and said that's what she's trying to get the entire state to do.
Okay.
And so you're right, but we had to kind of get permission to say, well, instead of PowerPoint in 8th grade, we want to do PowerPoint in 3rd grade. They got to be okay with that.
Yeah.
And we're not the only school district in the state doing it, but there's not many.
Okay.
And so now when they walk in 9th grade, they have classes like Chris Russell's class where they can learn Photoshop, and they can learn things like GarageBand, but he does it through Logic Pro, which is kind of a pro version of GarageBand, and Final Cut. When they complete that, that kind of gives them a great foundation to take the course that we just added in our district, which is a dual enrollment course through Northeast, where they will actually take 6 hours, and by the time they complete it, they'll be able to write an app for your iPhone and put it in the App Store and market it. And so we're real proud of that because we're one of very few schools in the state who the students will take the class and have the certification. And many of them can leave at 18 years old, not even go to college, and make the amount of money both their parents combined make.
Now, when you say partnership with Northeast, and you said 6 hours, is that two semesters, or is
Right.
that so? It's a 2 semesters. Can you explain that a little
So
bit?
the first semester is like iOS Coding 1, which is like an introduction to it, and it's 3 hours. And then the professor will pick out of that the people who they think can handle iOS Coding 2.
All right.
And so we have a bigger group in 1. They'll all get 3 hours as long as they pass the class. But when they go to 2, we kind of narrow that because it ramps up the difficulty pretty dramatically.
Who can be in the class? Who needs to apply?
We are taking 9th through 12th grade students. The 9th and 10th graders won't get college credit because for dual enrollment you have to be 11th or 12th grade. But we're basically going to let them audit the class. They'll get high school credit but not college credit. The 11th and 12th graders will get dual enrollment, but we really don't have, we intentionally tried to not filter it. Because what you'll find are, for example, some of the biggest businesses that exist that are the most innovative have students with disabilities who are their CEOs who come through with breakthroughs that you couldn't imagine. For example, you probably didn't know Steve Jobs had a disability, right? And so we didn't want in any way to limit the class because sometimes those dyslexic children or autistic children think in a way that you and I may not see, and they come up with the most innovative products. We also didn't want to limit it by grade. Right? So if they're a D student but they're tech savvy, we want them to be in the class.
Well, and sometimes students who seem otherwise unengaged in school could get fired up over this.
That's very true.
Okay.
And when we had the sign up, there were a few of those that I saw. And we're excited about them being in there.
Because this may be their thing.
It may be their thing.
Well, moving along, when we may have hit on it a little bit, but I know we have a one-on-one program or one-to-one program going on in the district. You want to describe that for us?
Yeah, so we've got roughly 2,200 students in our district. And so from third grade to 12th grade, every one of them has their own device. 6th through 12th grade, they take it home with them. And it's an iPad. The K2 students...
Furnished by the school district.
Furnished by the school district. Right. They take it home. They keep it, do all their schoolwork on it. Now, the intention of doing the one-to-one had nothing to do with, like, saving paper, right? Our main intention was we had students graduating high school, going to Northeast, having to use products like Blackboard or Canvas, and had never been on Blackboard or Canvas, had never used the device to write a paper.
Just for everyone, what's Blackboard, what's Canvas?
So Blackboard and Canvas is basically your online interaction tool so that the teacher can interact with the student in an online safe manner.
So they post things on Canvas, assignments,
That's right.
Students do the homework, put it on Canvas.
Submit it on Canvas.
And
Teacher grades it on Canvas, and student sees their grade and their comments right there on their device.
so even though all during the week there may be exchanges and the teacher's teaching and there's a human touch, so to speak, when it comes to test time and when it comes to turn your homework, whereas the dog's not going to eat the homework.
Right.
Because
Unless they eat the iPad.
right, because the homework's going to be submitted and now it goes straight to the teacher. So the dog's out of the picture now.
Right.
Well, go ahead then.
Well, and so the new dog make my homework is my internet went out.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Which is a legitimate thing.
Does
Which
happen.
is when we were doing this partnership with the community, we went to every business and got their Wi-Fi password, who was willing to give it, and we preloaded it on all the students' iPads.
Okay.
So if they go in Subway, it just automatically connects. If they go to Tallahatchie Gourmet, it just connects. The students don't have to ask for a password, it just connects to it.
Public library.
The library, anywhere in town that there was public internet, that they would give me the Wi-Fi password, I preloaded it. The kids don't know the password, but it's online.
How many businesses were you able to get? Do you remember?
I would say somewhere in the range of 20, 25.
That's tremendous.
Yeah, and so
That's tremendous.
and then we
So
also
you can tell them where they can be. They can use it. They don't know the password, but they're able to get on it.
right, and we had students who would say they were intimidated to go and say AC's Coffee and ask for the Wi-Fi password.
Right.
And so we preload it. They sit outside in the chair, don't even walk in ACs, and they're connected to their Wi-Fi, and it just automatically connects.
And I know people sometimes sit outside the school district, different kind of places, just to get on the Wi-Fi.
Right. So one of the things I did was install some outdoor arrays that are waterproof. And so there are areas in our district that have seating, that if you go sit there, you'll get great internet and be sitting outside. There's also areas where it just goes through the wall and they can connect. And we see people all the time drive up, park their car for an hour, do their work, and then leave. And we don't have a problem with that.
I know bandwidth is always an issue. And I know you work hard to try to get more and more of it all the time. Can you talk a little bit about trying to increase bandwidth and that kind of thing?
Yeah, that's super important because most IT specialists, when the internet gets slow as a result of usage,
Right.
will say, well, let's block YouTube, let's block Netflix, let's block anything. So my thought on it is if we have a road and it's congested, let's build more lanes to the road.
Right.
Let's don't tell people, well, just don't drive on the road, right?
Yep.
Because that would be easy. We'd have a nice, clean highway if we just said, well, you're not allowed to use it, right? And so when we came in at New Albany, we had 500 megs of download speed. Well, at my house, I have 250. So 500 for 2,200 kids is like...
Explain download speed, upload speed.
Right, so downloads how fast you can receive the video, uploads how fast you can upload your video or picture to Facebook or YouTube.
So you're downloading when you watch a movie.
Correct.
And you're uploading when you
put something online.
To send it to somebody.
Right, so if you post a video, if you take a video of your child's birthday party, when you click post, it's uploading it to the internet.
All right, so go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so we had 500, like I said, I've got 250 at my house, so 500 wasn't near enough to stick 2,200 students on there, and the teachers. And so we expanded to 1,000, and that, right now, we hang around 850 all day. So with all the kids using it, we try to only block the things that are inappropriate. So YouTube has tons of educational benefits, so we try to keep it unblocked. If there is a student who proves to us they can't handle it, we block it on their individual device, but we don't block it for everybody. So we've expanded the bandwidth to 1,000. That was the first thing we did 2 years ago. Then we put out for bid to expand the bandwidth again to 10,000. We're at 500. Max South won the bid, and when I was leaving, they were actually installing the pipe underground at the VOTEC. So that's one of those infrastructure things over the summer that we have happening. So at 10,000, we will be in really good shape.
Okay.
We will be in really good
Already probably as fast as anybody in town.
Yeah, for sure. And no complaints right now. At 500, we got a lot of complaints. At 1,000, we get no complaints. But when 4K video, so the video you take on your phone is 1080p. 4K video is about 3 times that. When that goes real heavy live, then we'd start getting complaints again. So we're trying to look out in the future and prevent those complaints.
I think we're starting to run a little tight on time, so I'm going to kind of zero in on a couple more questions and then we'll close it up. You do a lot of instructional training. Can you give us an idea of the whys whys and the wherefores?
What, for teachers or students?
Start with teachers, because that's, for students to get it, the teachers have to have it.
Right. Well, the thing I always say is you only put devices in the classroom for two reasons: to make the students overcome weaknesses, or to make the teacher a better teacher. And so every time we do a training, we're always focused on how are we going to meet those two objectives. How are we going to make it where the teacher, because the old school, if you have a whiteboard and you're writing, or a chalkboard and you're writing, the teacher's stuck at the front of the room. So if you have a student at the back of the room, the teacher has to stop what they're doing to go deal with that child. Well, if you give them an iPad and they can write on the iPad and it shows up on the board, now they can go anywhere in the classroom they want to and address any problems with the students that they have.
Okay.
And so the idea is we want to make the teachers more effective with the technology, and we want the students to be able to overcome. So it's an equity piece, right? So you have students who, when we go one-to-one, we're providing for students who probably couldn't provide that for themselves. But that's the world they're living in. So the world's not going to say when they're 18, we see that you can't afford a device, let me give you one. Let me give you the training on it. So we feel like it's our job to provide that opportunity for every student that walks in our building, so that they're not walking in college behind other students who had those opportunities.
Very good. Give you an opportunity here before we sign off. Anything you'd like to just kind of talk about or hold forth for our audience before we sign off?
Well, I appreciate being on. I think that our community is in the forefront when you talk about our adoption of technology and the support we get from the community. I would say that we're in kind of an interesting time where you have a generation of young people who interact on their device, and a generation of seasoned people, will say, who are frustrated with their device.
Mm-hmm.
And can't understand that there are jobs that exist that the adults may see as play. For example, there are people in our country right now who are making millions of dollars a year playing video games, and that's hard to swallow, right? But that's a job.
Millions of dollars a year playing video games.
So it's just like, how does LeBron James make millions of dollars in endorsements?
Basketball, right?
So it's all about endorsement. You have an extremely famous, say, Fortnite player who puts all his videos on YouTube.
Okay.
And he's got millions of followers. Well, if he says, I don't like Fortnite anymore, I like this video game, all of his followers switch to that video game. So it's an influence, right?
So Fortnite sponsors him?
Fortnite not only sponsors him, but pays him, say, $10,000 an hour to play Fortnite and live stream it on YouTube.
Okay.
So it's hard to, and then, not only that, then he's selling advertisements on his YouTube videos. So he's making millions of dollars a year doing something that we don't see as valuable, a lot of older folks.
Okay.
So seeing the world a little different, and when you have a student who maybe is tech savvy, now I'm not advocating for sit in your dark room and play Fortnite all day, for sure.
Right.
But I'm saying to see that there are other ways to make money than the traditional, be a doctor, be a lawyer, be a teacher.
Technology opened a lot of doors.
And it also made it where I can do it from New Albany and connect with people in Chicago and Miami and LA, so I can live wherever I want to live.
And I know you do a podcast, don't you?
I do.
Would you tell us just real quick about that?
So it's just
It's a tennis podcast, isn't it?
Right. So I had a child who I played football, basketball, and golf. My wife played. She swam and played softball.
She's a catcher.
Okay, and he fell in love with tennis, and of course I knew nothing about it. And it's one of these things where when you get into worlds, like you're in the dancing world, you realize there's this whole world you didn't even know existed. Mm-hmm. And so for us, it was, how do we navigate it, right? And what we started noticing was there were a whole bunch of other people that didn't know how to navigate it. So as we started having conversations, me and a guy that I do it with named Scott Colson in Kentucky, we started interviewing players who had played in the past and their kind of journey through the game. And we started realizing this is stuff that people would like to know. And so we just stuck it online, and lo and behold, we'll get 1,000, 1,200, 1,500 listens per episode, and now we're selling advertising for it. So it just kind of happened, right?
Right.
But the internet is what allows it to happen.
Well, Robert, I appreciate you being with us.
Thank you for having me on.
I really do. And for Robert Garrett, this is Chuck Garrett and the Hill Country Network saying thank you for watching.